And away we go. It is another edition of the BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com, presented to you by the Holy Grail. Saturday. If you're not watching the game at the Holy Grail, what are you doing? Bengals in the playoffs against the Titans, the 1 seed in Nashville, 4:30 Saturday. Bengals and buckets at the Holy Grail. Make sure you are there. That place was packed on Friday night, was packed on Saturday. If you're a Bengals fan and you're not around other Bengals fans at the Grail, unless you're Dave Simone and you're superstitious, you're doing it wrong. So there you go. Holy Grail, Saturday, Bengals Titans, and make sure you check it out.
Colin just wants me to talk Bengals the whole time.
The people have discovered that, like, your better avenue for content might be the Bengals. The people want Mo and Dave.
I know a lot about them. That's for sure. I mean,
on the Bearcats front, though, Dave.
I'm sure we'll get to the Bengals, but yes, this is a Bearcats podcast, so we would be doing our loyal listeners an injustice if we just started with that.
Let's start with our newest partner. We can't give out what it looks like yet, but we did get a shipment today, Dave.
I did,
and was that one of the ones that was at the top of your wish list? What you got? We can't tell them what, but
that would have been in my top group, I guess you could say.
I got a couple in my top group as well. They gave me 2. You only got 1. I'm sorry. They sent Kelsey one too, and she has not taken it off. I'm like, you can't wear that yet. It's embargoed until Saturday. She's like, I'm wearing it around the house, Dad. So she's not allowed to come on camera at all tonight if she tries to walk in the room. They are soft. They are comfortable. And I said this on Twitter, Dave. I'm sure you will agree with me. When this goes live on Saturday at noon, you're not going to be able to buy just one item. Like there's 15 of them, and they're all retro. It's all.
Is there that many? 15?
Yeah, there's 15 of them. They're all retro. They're all old school designs and markings and logos, and it is outstanding. Crew necks, hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops, high level stuff.
Big fan.
You're experienced with the home field brand. They've had their Tennessee collection out for a while, right?
I have known about them for a minute. Yeah. Rachel has a Michigan State sweatshirt. I have a Tennessee Volunteers 1998 National Champs t-shirt. Yeah. They've been a sponsor for maybe the only sponsor and the original sponsor for the Split Zone Duo podcast that I've listened to for a long time. You can get a Split Zone Duo t-shirt from them. You can get a Stephen Godfrey Hates My Team t-shirt. But yeah, they just have a lot of, and even like, I like them because, there's other schools that I'm not affiliated with or anything, but that you just see a lot of cool designs and a lot of cool old logos that you don't see in the marketplace very often. That if you're like, oh, that's a cool Navy shirt,
right?
Support the troops.
They sent Kelly this one, the original, the Fight Cincinnati one, which is old school.
Yeah, they've got like that was their first one that they put out.
Yeah.
Sneak preview of, but there's like some cool App State stuff, if I can remember. Marquette stuff, I think that's pretty cool. It's
the Marquette color scheme is on a t-shirt is outstanding.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that our fan base will enjoy the variety. There's even a It's also not even limited to football and basketball. I'll give that little sneak peek for our
Yeah, I'll give them a huge hat tip to the fact that when they say vintage, man, they dug deep. Like they went back through the archives and found some cool looking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturday, noon, home field apparel. Be ready. Because there's a couple of them, Dave, that are going to sell out fast.
I have an idea of one that I want to get, but
there's 3 or 4 of them I think that aren't going to last long. So be ready for that. Thanks to Hometown for sponsoring. And like it says at the scroll, if you go to homefieldapparel.com when this hits, 15% off your first purchase if you use the code Bearcat Journal. So there you go. All right. Well, Dave, a lot has happened.
So yeah, it's
since we have talked.
We joke about it all the time, but like there's always something going on.
Had Nick Mardner committed by the time we did this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. That was okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we switch days and things get a little jumbled in my brain.
Yeah.
I think we had to do Thursday last week because of a Wednesday basketball game.
We did.
So you're right. Yeah. Let's start with the staff. If you are a member of Bearcat Journal, you're very happy with your level of coverage because we had it nailed. Gino Guidugli, offensive coordinator, and now offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. Maybe the biggest surprise of everything that happened. Mike Cummings in as offensive line coach, replacing Ron Crook. What is going to, happen with Ron Crook is still a little bit up in the air. As I have said, I'm sure if he can find an offensive line to coach, he will go coach an offensive line somewhere. But this was not an ugly divorce per se. And if he needs a job, I'm quite certain he will have one here in some capacity. Defensively, Kerry Combs is back. Walt Stewart is back. Colin Hitchler has been elevated to co-defensive coordinator. And overall, Dave, I think it's not often you can look at the losses that they had and look at the way things shaped out and go, I like where this is kind of played out for the Bearcats.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about. The proof will still,
of course,
be in the results, but I think each guy has a lot of things that you can point to and say that this is a intelligent, smart hire that keeps the program advancing. Because, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. It's a stupid cliche, but like nobody in sports, college sports, pro sports, no one just stays the same. Like there's way too many moving parts, whether it's roster, coaches, etc. Like you're either getting better or you're going to get worse. And I think that these staff changes give the Bearcats a chance to get better. And I think the main area that it gives them a chance to get better is in recruiting.
Yeah. Did you dig in on Cummings? Like what? Obviously he's done a really good job developing offensive linemen.
Not from a recruiting standpoint, just because I don't know if there's anything from the central side of things that is gonna jump out and make you go, oh yeah, he's a ace recruiter. I don't know, I think that's harder to decipher without really trying to find out, okay, who was he really responsible for? Did any of these guys have quote unquote bigger offers that he was able to keep them? I think for me, not everybody can be, quote unquote recruiting guru, recruiting stalwart coach. But I think as we progress and grow as a program, that more and more of those guys are needed. And I'm not saying you put X's and O's to the back burner, but like I'm okay if the offensive line coach is more about development and scheme than I am recruiting. Because we know how the dynamics are shifting, how the demographics are shifting. There's just less big people in the world.
You mean there's not a lot of athletic guys that are 6'6" that can carry 310 pounds?
Right. And if they're, and granted though, we're seeing UC getting more and more of those guys straight out of high school, but it's still like the true, if and when UC starts pulling like several 4-star, highly sought after offensive linemen, then we can talk about that. But it's still a development position for them.
Sure.
It's still find a quality guy like an Ethan Green and turn him into a Bernard Raymond, who, for those that don't know, is the Central Michigan offensive lineman, came in as a tight end, and now will probably be drafted in the first round or early second round in April. I'm more interested in that type of stuff with Coach Cummings than I am like, well, who did he recruit like out of high school?
Yeah, and he also had the number 1 pick in the draft as someone he developed as well. So
right, and stuff. I mean, he's got 2 guys in the Senior Bowl this year.
Yeah,
they had the number 1 and offensive line, and offensive line and offense in general kind of goes hand in hand. So like, is he 100%? A contributing factor to them having the nation's leading rusher? No. But having the nation's leading rusher is definitely a feather in his cap from a scheme and run game and then offensive line play standpoint. So, like, you can't have the nation's leading rusher
and a bad offensive line.
And just have a bunch of slappies up there on the offensive line.
That's not how that works.
No. So, but I think, where he might be more of the X's and O's coach, you like to, I sometimes put him in, are you a ball coach or are you recruiting season? Like, I would put him more in the ball coach, and I would, without knowing much about Walt from a pure coaching standpoint, I would put him in, obviously, Carey in more of the recruiting season guys. And that's – I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say that's where I think the staff as a whole can take some leaps, especially with the carrot now of the college football playoff and the Big 12 in their pocket that they haven't had while they've been out recruiting in the past.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, if you've met Walt, if you know Walt, Walt just is a recruiter. Like, he's got a great personality, a big smile. He's trustworthy. He's likable. Like, everything about Walt screams that dude is going to be able to go into living rooms and get people to buy in.
Well, yeah, and you know, and it's a real thing. Like, you have a young African-American guy coming back to his alma mater who is going to want to bust his ass to get dudes to prove that he didn't just get this job because he went to UC and had probably still had some connections to people in the, maybe not Luke himself, but people associated with the program who others outside the program might say things like, well, they just, fed his name to Luke, because they knew him from
right.
and kind of, insubordination type, thing with, just getting someone that the program is familiar with.
Right. And this is also for Walt. Like, he's tried to come back here. This is like the third time where he's like really made a push to get back to Cincinnati. And this time it worked out. So he's gonna be hungry. He's gonna want it, like you said, he's gonna want to prove like I'm here to be really good at this. And I'm here. You know what Walt wants. Walt wants to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. Like, so I think he's going to be very driven, very motivated to make this happen. Crypt Keeper, Kerry Combs is coming back to Cincinnati to be a coach. Is he coming back to run the defense? He's coming back to be the special teams coordinator and the cornerbacks coach. So when Brian Mason and Perry Eliano left, that left 3 openings on the staff, essentially. Brian Mason was special teams coordinator, and he coached the sniper dollar linebacker position, which is basically the strong side coverage linebacker, Deshaun Pace, Jarrell White. So Combs took over for special teams and then the cornerback coach position when Perry Eliano went to Ohio State.
What happened?
It's like, whoa, hey. And then Walt Stewart is taking over the sniper outside linebacker position that was part of Brian Mason going to Notre Dame. So that's kind of where that is. No problem. And look, for Kerry, I know, there's been so much. The person talked about on Bearcat Journal the most since 2006, it's probably like Mick Cronin, because we had 13 years of that. Like Mick Cronin, number 1, Kerry Combs, number 2. I think this is perfect for Kerry. And I think he's going to be motivated. Not that he was ever not going to be motivated, but I think he's going to want to prove it, man. I think he's going to want to say, look, it wasn't just because I was at Ohio State that I was good at what I did. I'm going to come here and really show towards the tail end of his, he's in his 60s now, early 60s, but in his 60s. Like, I'm good at this stuff, and I still got a lot of tread left on the tires, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like he'll be, I don't want to say rejuvenated, but like, I think anytime these guys take a different job, and I think he'll be super motivated because of the way things ended at Ohio State. Yeah. Like,
sure,
these are all super competitive, driven people. Like, they don't want to be known as like, oh, well, you're a good coordinator and you're a good coach and you're a good guy, but you're going to be remembered for not being a good defensive coordinator. I mean, I've just known Kerry and known of him for too long to think that's going to be okay with him to finish his coaching career out like that. I hope our fans are ready for the longest hashtags in the history of the world.
Yeah, he's a long hashtag guy.
Which I think is hilarious because they are super long. And you have
they're sentences.
You have to read them like 17 times to realize. And he doesn't capitalize the new words. He has to like read them to figure out, okay, what is that word? What is that word? But yeah, he loves very long hashtags and wearing short sleeves, which I could appreciate because I'm the same way. But yeah, I think Kerry recruiting for UC coming off of a college football playoff and going to the Big 12. I don't know if you could really like draw that up any better from UC standpoint.
Sure.
Like, who are you going to get to come in that will bring that kind of juice to the recruiting trail that knows Cincinnati proper, knows the university, knows the football program, knows the head coach. Like, that's about as seamless. Was that Blue Smith in the background of that picture?
Put it back up.
I don't know what year it was taken, but it was Ohio State 83.
I don't know. That Blue's a lot like Blue's legs are really long.
Yeah, I just caught the 83.
Yeah.
But I mean, who else could come in and hit the ground running like he's going to be able to?
Right. And I think it's interesting. I think there was a segment of the high school football community when he was first at Cincinnati that maybe didn't love Kerry as much as they could have. Because he had kicked everybody's butt, and Kerry's a pretty loud guy. Like,
he went straight from kicking all their asses to then, like,
hey, send me your kids,
loving up on them, and
right,
but
and look, there is, like it or not, we've seen it with Luke. There is something about having Ohio State kind of in your past that opens doors in the state of Ohio that have been hard for Cincinnati to open in the past.
Sure. I mean, and think about all the kids and the relationships and everything that now he recruited them, and maybe they were just outside of what Ohio State wanted. But now he goes back in and is like, yes, you can absolutely come play for me here.
Right.
Like, I mean, we're seeing it already. I mean, I think it's silly to like think that he's not even on staff yet, but like just the one kid that basically said like, and will UC get him? Probably not. I mean, he's what, the 19th ranked player in the country?
Right.
But just the fact that he came out and said, Cincinnati is in my top group now.
And this is a kid that has made it very evident in his recruiting process. Kerry Combs is his guy.
Yeah, I mean, his dad has told people that, like, they trust him. Now, when it's nut cutting time, are they going to pick UC over Georgia and Alabama? That remains to be seen. But that's the kind of effect that he has.
And if you don't know who we're talking about, there you get the picture. That is A.J. Harris, who plays high school football at the same place that produced J.Q. Hardaway, who was Cincinnati's number 2 commit in the 2022 class. Now, they did not play together.
Yeah, he just transferred there.
But they clearly, based on their Twitter interactions, know each other well. So that can't hurt either. No. But again, like, his list is pretty much everybody, right?
Oh, his list is his offer list is wherever he wants to go. Like, he's the 5-star top 20 player, and like, he's going wherever he wants to go. That's his list.
Here's what we know. The chances of him landing at Cincinnati are better than they were before they added Kerry Combs.
Yeah, I don't think Colin
Hitchler. I think that's an interesting one because I think it's a rare insight to like Luke Fickell's inner circle, if you will.
Yeah. We need to get more, and you know because you go to practice and whatever, but like I need to, just for my own self-worth, I'd like to talk to Hitch or get to know him more, because like when you talked about the NFL background and knowing the scouts, and just in this week, dude is throwing some major offers out there.
Yeah.
And I just don't know, like, I don't know if we've even ever done like a one-on-one with him. Like,
he's quiet. Like,
so like, I don't know a ton about him.
He's not quiet, but he's not looking to get in front of the camera.
Right.
So we're gonna have to try to break that ice and get him a little bit more comfortable with us to where he's like, I have a good relationship with him.
Oh no, that's what I assume so, but like, you know how like, especially with spring ball, we always try to get the new coaches so that the fans can get to know them.
Sure.
And then at higher ground, we always try to get, whether it, every other day, when we can, and whether we get a player or a coach. I just feel like, and maybe I just don't remember, but I don't remember us doing anything with him. And obviously we didn't do higher ground 2 years ago. So I just don't remember. And he's someone that I would like to know more about, because he obviously, Luke thinks he's a hell of a coach, elevating him to co-defensive coordinator. He's, been in charge of some very good safeties in a short period of time. He seems to be like a, on the recruiting spectrum of things, like guys, when they, guys talk about him on visits or in commit stories, he's throwing around some big offers in the Philly, New Jersey area this week. So
I'll go to like The Athletic has done that series, like
I remember,
state, right?
Yeah, I remember that, where people up in Philly like threw his name out there, like just
like 2 or 3 different times they were like, Colin Hitchler's up here doing work for Cincinnati in this area.
Yeah, like when they're talking about like what coaches not from not Penn State, not Pitt, not like Michigan, like Michigan recruits that area a lot, like maybe guys that you wouldn't think. But yeah.
Like before Fickle, or like they're like, Colin Hitchler's up here doing work. So and I think he was in the New Jersey one too, where they talked about a couple guys, people talked about him. So I think they have a feel that of the guys on staff, like that's the up and comer.
Yeah.
So obviously giving him co-DC, giving him more responsibility, giving him, I would assume, a bigger paycheck with a better title. I could see Hitch being kind of groomed as like the next like play calling full-time defensive coordinator here. And look, man, Derek Forrest and James Wiggins were really good under him. They were really good when he took over, but he was also like, he worked for Tenuta for at least a year, I think 2 years as quality control. And Brian Cook, like, you want to talk about somebody that developed in his time here? That's a dude that developed his ass off. And Javon Hicks, I thought, was much better this year.
Yeah.
So if you're looking just strictly at like him as a coach, now this coming year is going to be like, let's see what you got, right?
Right. Like, if you can develop these guys real quick, then that would definitely open some eyes.
And if you go back to Monday, when we were talking to Brady about the weight room, he was effusive in his praise for threats.
Yeah.
And threw Isaiah Cox in there too. So they at least have a couple guys that you can tell they're pretty high on in terms of who's going to step up. But if Hitch takes that vacant spot from Cook and turns it into another dude, then your eyebrows really raise and you go, look, man, this guy's really good at his job.
Yeah, because we have no idea what that spot's going to look like.
Right. Stylistically, like, you're not going to find another Brian Cook, I don't think.
Well, I don't think they have one right now on this roster. I mean, we could be proven wrong. But yeah, I don't see a player quite of that style right now. But again, a lot of these guys,
he's going to go down as one of my favorite Bearcats to watch play, even though it was such a limited window that we got to see him.
Oh yeah,
because man, there were dudes like we would get to go to practice on Tuesdays, right? And Tuesdays are the hard work days. And Tuesdays are also really the first practice since Saturday. So there's a lot of dudes at that point in time that are kind of like nursing. You know, maybe I got a bruise, like bruise my thigh or turn my ankle, and those guys were always pretty limited on Tuesday.
Yeah, they're still closer to the previous game than we are the next game. So they're like,
right.
Yeah, I don't need to go full go today.
There were multiple Saturdays this season where at the end of the game, I was like, Brian Cook's probably not going to be back out there till Thursday at best. And we might not see him for a couple weeks. And you go back, and there he is Tuesday, right out on the field. Like, and from talking to the staff, like the training staff, like he was there immediately on Sunday mornings, getting rehab, getting better. He was there on Mondays, getting better, because he was hell bent on Tuesdays. I'm a practice, and that's a dude I think he's gonna stick in the NFL for a long time. Even if it's just as like a rotational safety and special teams player.
Yeah, well, you know he'll get in there on all the special teams. I mean that.
But I think it's safety, man. Like that dude's going to be rock solid for a long time in the NFL. Like this team is going to miss Brian Cook. He quickly became one of my favorite Bearcats to watch because there was no bullshit to Brian Cook. No bullshit. It was, I'm coming here to get better and try to make my family generational money.
Yeah.
And very few guys with his recruiting profile succeed at that. And that dude did.
For sure. I mean, he probably has, I think it's my favorite like singular play of the year was the hit play on like kind of the throwback screen against Central Florida.
That was a big one.
Just the time of the game, like UC was really starting to kick the crap out of him. And then they tried to do that, and it was just played so well by so many people on the play, but like just his hit and just everybody just went crazy. Like that's like a singular play. Like I will never forget that play. Yeah, Hitch is a guy I think we need to try to get some screen time with.
Yeah. Mike Brown elevated to, and this is one Justin Williams had. He scooped me on this one. I'll let him have one. It's okay. It happens sometimes. Mike Brown elevated to passing game coordinator. I think that, there were a lot of people interested in Mike Brown. Sometimes you got pony up to keep the coaches, right? If you got guys you want to keep, you gotta dig into the pockets a little bit. And Cincinnati had to do that with keeping Mike Brown and with Gino now not being the passing game coordinator. I think it opens up and gives Mike Brown a chance to advance his career as well. And that's another one, man. He's down in Florida throwing haymakers.
Oh, dude, he's got his offers left and right today.
And not small ones.
Oh, no.
Like, this is what's been crazy to me. And we'll get to recruiting a little bit more later. But since we're talking about the coaches and these guys being out, like they're all quickly out on the road. They're not out offering the 85 guys. They are some, but they're not out offering the middle level guys anymore. If you're not an 88, you better be pretty special to get an offer from Cincinnati, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously trying to retweet as many as I see. And if they're 2023s, I'll make a more of a note of it. If it's 2024, then you're just getting a retweet. Like I'm not too worried about that. But I mean, they're offering as many 4 stars as they are 3 stars. That's for sure.
They're not playing around with this 2023 cycle. I mean, shoot your shot, right? Like you're hot right now.
You're hot in the streets. You might.
There's no better time. I mean,
yeah.
What are you going to wait? Like, no, let's go after it. Yeah. Is it going to be harder? Sure.
Absolutely. It should be.
You're not getting to where everybody wants you to get and to where they want to get by doing the same thing. Like I said, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're not being more competitive with Georgia and Alabama, and you're not becoming a top 10 program by offering and recruiting the same kids that you did to get here. And it's no knock on those kids. They have been awesome, and they have gotten UC to this point. But you're, just recruiting those same kids is not going to get you to that next level.
Right. Let's
Catch up
up
on
a
some
couple questions. Yeah. New uniforms. I would not expect that. The Under Armour deal, like uniforms are a large undertaking. Maybe there's a new alternate, but I would not expect an overhaul for uniforms until their first year with whoever is the new apparel company, whenever that comes about. Did Gino call the plays? Look, Luke Fickell told Pete Thamel Gino called the plays. So I don't know what else to tell you. Maybe when we get Luke, we'll ask him or try to find out a more definitive answer. But Luke Fickell told Pete Thamel that Gino called the plays this year. That is something clearly. We got a lot of why didn't anybody report this? Do you think they're letting that out, that their offensive coordinator is not calling the plays? Who's going to talk about that? You get fired immediately if it gets discovered that you were the leak on the offensive coordinator wasn't calling the plays. You gotta think a little bit. The only reason that stuff gets out is because somebody talks about it. I heard a couple rumblings that Gino called the Cotton Bowl as Denbrock left for LSU, but it was never fully confirmed, so I never ran with it. Pete obviously ran with it because Luke told him. I am going to take Luke at his word. If Luke said Gino called the plays, Gino called the plays. And here's what I'll also say. If you think they did a bad job calling plays in 2021, you probably should re-examine your football knowledge. They were one of the most explosive offenses in college football. They were one of the best offenses in college football. They scored points. They gained yards. Were there bumps in the road? Sure. But the reality is, if that wasn't the best offensive season in program history, it was the second best. And if Gino's first year calling the plays at Cincinnati produced the second best offensive season in program history, yeah. I don't know what else to tell you. I'll let you expand on that because I'm sure you have thoughts.
Well, they were 24th in yards per attempt passing. That's pretty good, right?
Yes.
Okay. They were, hold on while I pull this up. They were 18th in yards per carry rushing. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. So they gained a lot of yards per play passing and a lot of yards per rush running.
They were 10th in the country in rushing touchdowns. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring offense, they were 11th at 36.9 points per game. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Passer rating, they were 14th in the country. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. I think that's solid. I think you would take that. If I told you next year they would be 14th, I think everybody would be happy with that.
Yeah. They were 14th in passing touchdowns. That's pretty good, right?
Yep.
Okay. They were. This is counting the bowl game, playoff game. They were here. Hold on. I'll even do this. I'll do this one better to try to make it. They were 44th in the country in sacks allowed at 1.86 per game. That's pretty good. Out of 130 teams.
Yeah. So basically they were top 25 in everything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they were. Before I say this, I'm going to check. I think they were great on third down this year. No, they were 73rd, 39.5%. So they can get better on third down.
Okay.
But for the most part, they had an offense that helped them go 13-1. I think that's good.
I would say that's it's pretty good. Why did we pay Denbrock $500,000 to coach tight ends? Then I would trust Luke. I went back over this a couple times, and we'll talk about it here. The Georgia game changed the trajectory of UC football in a million ways, right? Because that was supposed to be the end of that group. Dez was going to go pro. Majay was going to go pro. Kobe wasn't going to stay. And you couple that with Forrest and Wiggins and, everything that led up to that game. They made the New Year's Six, right? And it was supposed to be a reset kind of then. And then you go wire to wire with Georgia, and all these guys decide, I want to do something special. And they all decide, let's come back. And then you lose Marcus Freeman, right? This is the important part of this equation that I need people to understand. Then you lose Marcus Freeman. So you're going to run it back trying to win a championship, replacing both coordinators? No. So Denbrock staying, I think, was something that going into the offseason, I think it was time last year in the natural progression of Geno, 1 year as running back coach, 3 years as quarterback coach, for Geno to become the offensive coordinator after the end of last season. But then the Vandy thing, and I'd love to tell some stories about what I heard about that interview process. He's gone. I can tell one, right?
Well, yeah, you can tell as many as you want.
Apparently, they spent 9 hours in a room watching video, took one break to use the bathroom and get a drink of water. There were no drinks in the room. You couldn't just have, hand up, can I get a water? They sat there and dissected and evaluated tape for 9 hours like they were in Guantanamo Bay, from what I heard of that Vandy interview process for offensive coordinator. You would have been an idiot to have taken that job at that point.
I'm pretty sure they fired their offensive coordinator this year.
Yeah, after 1 year.
Yeah.
So Denbrock stays, but I think the natural progression of everything going into this year, that Geno was going to have a heavier influence.
And I guess to me, I don't know if it's also being a big Bengals fan and just NFL fan in general. I've never given a rip about title and who calls plays. Because how many there's tons of offensive coordinators that don't call plays. So are we saying that they're they shouldn't be paid a certain dollar amount, or they shouldn't have X amount of responsibility? I just don't think it matters. But in this case, we'd kind of gotten to the point where, the writing, I think, was somewhat on the wall of what needed to happen in order to move things forward and possibly keep certain staff members in Cincinnati.
Right there. I mean, there was a very real possibility that Geno was close to leaving last offseason.
Yeah,
so
people have goals and aspirations. As much as fan bases want to think that, like, oh, dude played here, he'll never leave. Not everybody just wants to come back to their alma mater and be a quarterback coach for 30 years. Like, people do have, interest in progressing in their career.
And again, he was hired or promoted to offensive coordinator at Central Michigan.
Yeah, and left
Right.
to be the running backs coach, which he never coached before.
Right. So he obviously had aspirations to move up the ladder. What about the reality of, look, we need to keep Geno, so we got to throw in something. Maybe it's play calling. And if that's what happened, that's what happened. So I don't know. I also have another theory on why Denbrock took so much shit. And to a different extent, coupled with Denbrock, was Dez. Because those two guys over the past 5 years took more shit than anybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you couldn't go after Luke Fickell, right? Because he saved the program. 11 wins, 9 wins, 9-1, 13 wins. You ain't taking shots at Luke Fickell. And you weren't taking shots at Marcus Freeman.
No.
Because he was the chosen one, the golden child, if you will. And fans these days have to take shots at someone. And there's only so many people at the top of the food chain. So the people at the top of the food chain were Luke Fickell, Marcus Freeman, Mike Denbrock, Gino Gnulli, or Desmond Ridder, sorry. And you weren't taking shots at the first two. So Denbrock and Dez took a lot of unnecessary fire just so people could get their level, their bitching quota in.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just the way that it works. I mean, the quarterback takes more shit and also gets more credit than they deserve. And, if you have a stellar defense, and, I don't think I don't think we're breaking any news, but 2018, 2019, the offense wasn't exactly the greatest show on turf. The defense was still was very good for those teams, and the reason you were in games or winning games a lot of the time. So that's that's just the way that it's going to be. But
last 2 years, the offense has been very good.
The offense has been the last 2 seasons. The offense has been more than whatever you could have thought it would be. It's been more. It's been more than, in my opinion.
I agree. The numbers clearly tell the story, and when you were going over those numbers, and they stick for both seasons. It's not like there was a anomaly. There's not like it was a gimmick, or it was things were out of place. It was like, oh, this team's very good running and passing the ball. This team's very consistent. This team moves the chains. This year they were 5th in lowest number of third down snaps. They were getting first downs on first and second down. They were incredibly efficient. So this need to bash somebody allowed everybody to kind of pick Denbrock as that's the villain. And then Dez, you couldn't bash him anymore, really, because from game 4 last year all the way through this year, he was outstanding. So now that was off the table. So now it had to be Denbrock. Tressel took a lot of smoke this year because he was new and nobody likes him from the last time. There's a segment that don't like him.
I mean, and it's hard to compare seasons too, because you had this year you had 13 games, Notre Dame and Indiana and Alabama, versus last year you had basically no one worth a damn in the non-conference.
The Army defense was good.
It was okay. But like this year, they averaged 36.9 points per game, and last year they averaged 37.5 points per game. So you're averaging over 35 points both seasons, while also having, a top flight defense.
Right, where you don't have to, you're not being asked to carry the load.
And it's funny, like the 37.5 points per game was 17th in the country last year. And this year, fewer points per game was 11th in the country.
Right. I don't know. I get annoyed with the whole, like, was Denbrock perfect? No. Nobody is. Like,
no one is. If you're gonna, and this is what fans do, and I'm guilty of it as much as anybody. I mean, I was fucking irate walking out of the Mercedes-Benz Dome last year. Like, I've never been more mad at a singular play call in my entire life without having any idea of what the call was, if it was an audible, if Dez read something wrong, if someone else did something wrong that forced him to do so. Like, I didn't know any of those things walking out of the stadium, and I was as mad as I've ever been about one singular thing.
The reality was on that play, a dude just made a play.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, if we're going to go through every single call, which fans do, every single call of every single game, of course there are going to be plays where we're like, that was really dumb to call that play in that moment. The offensive coordinator for whatever team you're talking about would probably agree.
Sure.
But like, that's why I try not to do it, because I'm not in meetings. I don't know the game plan. I don't know who maybe is playing in it 95% or 90% and couldn't get to this block that they normally do. And the play would have worked if they could, but they didn't. So this defender was able to do this and made it look like it was a bad play call, but it was really just, part of the game. But that's what fans do. So I understand that. But, I guess I just, we did that enough when the offense stunk. I don't really understand doing it a lot when the offense is basically top 20 in every statistical category that matters to winning. Why we need to go through and act like we know something that they don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I guess it's all just to say this. If Geno called the plays in 2021, like Luke Fickell says that he did, the numbers say Geno's going to be a pretty fucking awesome offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, does he get to call plays with that same team?
No, but I'm saying still, like, the numbers are the numbers. If that was his first season calling plays in college football, a pretty good season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't get caught up in your feelings and your need to hate Mike Denbrock to now have to feel like you have to, well, I hated Denbrock, so I have to be right. Like, that's the worst thing in sports fandom is people get so caught up like, I had a bad take, but that bad take's got to be right. So now I gotta double down with another bad take. Go look at the numbers. Go look at how freaking good this offense was. And if that was Geno's first season calling plays,
I mean, they carved up every defense they played outside of Alabama.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
were there lulls? Of course.
It's college football, man. You're talking about 18-year-old kids. They're not just going to lulls. That's why, that's the other one that made me laugh throughout the season. They just can't put 60 minutes together. Who does?
Yeah, who is perfect for 60 minutes?
Who plays just a great offense, defense, special team, 60-minute football game against another team that's actually trying, that hits every note that you expect it to hit when you walk into the stadium?
Right, man, if they could have just been perfect for 60 minutes.
If they had just thrown for 350 yards and rushed for 200 yards and not let the other team score
Had 12 3-and-outs.
Kicked every kickoff through the end zone, hit all their extra points right down the middle, had no third downs because they were so good on first and second down. Like, that's not a thing.
Right.
So, why are we holding a team? And I'm not saying everybody does that or even a small majority, but like, you just wonder, like, what are you expecting? Like,
right.
Yes. At moments, are you like frustrated? Are they not playing clean? We went through the part of the season with the Tulane and the Navy, and I get all that. The Tulsa, like, I understand it. Like, it's frustrating to see a team that has that much talent that goes through these stretches where you're like, what? These teams we're playing, it's not like they're doing anything crazy that should keep us from blowing
Having
their
success,
doors off.
right.
But it's still the nature of sports. Like, you play a certain way against Central Florida for a half of football where you literally play about as perfect as you can play. And then you turn around a week later and you play, an ugly first half or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't, I try not to like pick at it as if I'm trying to solve something that's really not solvable from that standpoint.
Right.
Like, especially in this type of a season where it's hard to, as we've talked about so much in the past, like, it's hard to separate in your mind, like, winning a game and that being the only thing that matters in November and the end of October, while all these other people are out there, chirping style points and they didn't look good and they're going to drop in the polls. Like, that's why I kept always saying, like, tell me where they are on December 5th and I'll tell you if I'm mad or not.
Right.
Because all those things that everyone kept talking about turned out to not matter one fucking bit.
Right.
And maybe they would have mattered if Oklahoma State had beat Baylor, but they didn't. So they didn't matter. So all that consternation and all that hand-wringing about not beating this team by enough and not beating this team by enough or looking like shit for the second half, it didn't matter. So a bunch of people just wasted their breath and mental space on stuff that doesn't matter.
Fans love wasting their breath and their mental space on things that don't matter. It's a big part of it. I think that's a big thing too, Dave, and we haven't really hit on that aspect of it. It doesn't seem like there's anybody more comfortable than Gino Guidugli with Mike Cummings, right? Like,
sure.
Mike Cummings gave Gino his opportunity to be a graduate assistant. He was the offensive coordinator at Central Michigan in 2010. That's when Gino started his coaching career as a grad assistant. In his last year as offensive coordinator at Central Michigan, in that stint, he's been to Central Michigan. He loves Central Michigan. He's been there a couple times. He promoted Gino to running backs coach. Like, that is clearly somebody that Gino has a very deep connection to. And for a first-time offensive coordinator with a year of play calling under his belt,
yeah,
important to bring a guy that not only, one, you are supremely comfortable with, Dave, but two, has a decade of experience as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing that and I don't know if this is something we'll have to get off the record, if Gino will openly talk about it. Like, I understand offense way more than I understand defense. I'm interested in, like, are you tearing up the playbook? Are you not tearing it up but making significant changes? Are you basically using the same playbook, but obviously your play calling style and cadence will be different, than Mike Denbrock pre-last year? I mean, but, like, I'm interested in that kind of stuff. Like, did you obviously when he became the play caller, he's going to have some of his own wrinkles in there, but they used the same playbook from the year before. That's obvious when we watch the games. Like,
yeah, pretty, yeah.
So now
I think there was some more outside stuff, but it was predominantly inside zone.
But now that you have a new offensive line coach and you are like the man now from the offensive coordinator standpoint. Mike Brown is passing game coordinator. Like, I'm interested in, I would love to talk to Gino about, how does your play calling philosophy differ from what we've seen just over the last few years? How is it going to change now that you don't have a 5th-year senior quarterback? Well, you kind of do still, but not one that has 40-something wins under his belt. But are you gutting the playbook? Is that not something that you can do because you have so many new pieces? So you're going to have to keep it. I guess they don't have so many new pieces, but the most important piece could be brand new from a true snap standpoint. But do you notice different things in the spring when we are able to check that out? Like, that's the type of stuff that I'm interested in finding out.
Yeah, maybe I'll dig around and see if we can get Gino to pop on the BCJ podcast and talk some offense with us. I don't think we're going to get him asked to answer the tough questions at this point, but maybe see if he's willing to come on and answer questions.
Yeah,
he's never been shy.
No.
So
his predecessor came on.
Yeah, he did. Crypt Keeper. Thanks, guys. First time seeing the show. Go Bearcats. Big fan from Myrtle Beach. Hooday and go Reds. I love me some Myrtle Beach. Good spot. Thank you for tuning in.
With the Bengals and Bearcats rise, are the Reds shifting to FC Cincinnati level?
For right now, yeah. With the way that they're treating things, we answered that already, Todd. I'm excited to see the evolution of the offense as well. We still had Jimbo Fisher as offensive coordinator. We win the Alabama game. Love the old Rick Minner staff. Well, here was the problem with the old Rick Minner staff. It wasn't the old Rick Minner staff. It was the old Rick Minner staffs.
Yeah,
because if you think we experienced coaching change this year,
that's because they had good coaches that didn't have two nickels to rub together to pay them.
Right, and good coaches, you mean Mike Tomlin and Jimbo Fisher and the Ryan brothers and
John Harbaugh
and
Sam
Pittman and and it's crazy enough, the list goes on. That's just the top of the list of the guys that came through Cincinnati and worked for Rick Minner.
Wink Martindale.
Ugh. Fuck that guy. How are you feeling about the recruitment of AJ Harris? We talked about it at the beginning of the show. What I would say is
I have no idea. The guy that recruiting him isn't even technically on the staff yet.
Right. And when AJ Harris is in Clifton on campus.
Yeah, when he takes a visit, whether it's unofficial or official, then we'll start talking about it in more of a serious tenor.
Yeah, for sure. Right now,
it's a fun little thing to think about right now.
Yeah. Strength of this team next year on paper is the passing game. I agree.
I think that depends on who's playing quarterback.
Sure, but still,
I think with the returning offensive line and the running backs they have, that is very much a strength.
But there's not a bell cow. There's not a number one guy to replace Ford.
You don't like.
I still think they're going to be active in the transfer portal at running back.
I don't think you need that in college as much.
I think with Mike Warren and Jerome Ford, the things were really good offensively.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
so that's all. It's like if you got a dude, running the ball is a lot easier than if you're trying to figure out.
But I don't think they're gonna all of a sudden let's not be able to run the ball.
I don't either. I'm not saying they're gonna be terrible. I'm just saying I would prefer to have Mike Warren or Jerome Ford.
I think that's where they maybe, even as good as Jerome Ford was there, I think they struggled in the run game, offensive line wise, more technically, in my mind, more than in the passing game, especially up the middle. And now you have an offensive line coach who clearly
his run schemes seem to be very good.
It seems to work. So, and I I would hope that we have as good or better offensive linemen and running backs than Central Michigan does.
Right.
So I would hope
I'm
that
not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying with Wiley and Taylor and Tyler Scott and Jaden Thompson and Trey Tucker and Will Pauling and
I'm just tell me who's throwing them the ball, and then I'll tell you which one I think is going to be better.
That's what the fun of the spring and summer is going to be, Dave.
Exactly.
That's why you continue with your membership to Bearcat Journal, because it doesn't just stop with us, dominating.
Our spring and summer reports last year, frankly, sucked.
They're boring.
Boring.
There's nothing to report.
We actually, and I don't think we ever talked about this on the pod, but it was an on-running joke between Chad and I on the days that he didn't want to write a practice report. I told him, we'll just put the same one up from like a week ago and see if anybody notices. Because it was all the same people. The starters were all the same.
Right. There was no
variation in the two deeps. And you could have literally just put up, it could have been August 17th, and we could have put up August 7th practice report. And I don't think anybody would have realized that one was from a week and a half ago.
Yeah. This year, you're not going to be able to get away with that.
And I'm actually going to have to watch like the threes.
Some, yeah. We watched them a lot more this year than we have in the past.
Well, for sure.
Because it was like, okay, we know these guys aren't this year, but they're next year. Like their time is coming quick. That whole portion of the two deep, half of the two deep was leaving. So the threes are going to become at worst the twos.
Yeah. A lot of them may be ones.
Right. I'm saying at worst the twos. We were going to kind of do an offense-defense preview here, but Dave, we're already an hour and 15 minutes into this podcast.
Yep. We sure are.
So let's do that next week. Because I know once we get talking, once we start breaking down position by position.
Yeah. Well, it's not like we're just going to list some names and then move on.
Right. That's going to be an hour at least. Us kind of talking through the offense and defense. So let's move that to next week. And I don't know, you want to, let's say recruiting. Aaron, timestamp 1 hour, 37 minutes, 39 seconds. Okay. 4 minutes in was the first timestamp. But put it at 0.00 football.
Yeah, that's not happening.
No, it is. I'm ordering you as your boss to do this.
We're really going to do timestamps.
We're going to do like 3 timestamps: football, recruiting, basketball. If they want timestamps, I'll give them timestamps. They overwhelmingly want timestamps.
I think 5 people want timestamps.
No, there's a bunch of people that
are
you being insubordinate, Aaron?
They should bandy a leader who does the timestamps for the rest of them.
What are you even talking about? Like, my screen says live like 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you just said like 136 something.
No, I said 107.36. No, I meant to say 107.
Aaron, maybe I
000 football.
Maybe I should put the timestamps on the YouTube so they have to go to the YouTube.
Okay. 1 hour, 8 minutes, 54 seconds recruiting.
All right.
And then when we do basketball, we'll call out the timestamp there too. So everybody has time, to get to the right spot. Also brought to you by Home Field, whose Cincinnati Bearcats collection launches Saturday, the 22nd at noon. So make sure you're there for that.
There you go.
We got our shirts today. Aaron didn't get his shirt today because he's in Athens and he had me send his shirt downtown. Probably should have had me send that shirt to Athens.
It's fine.
Unless somebody snatches it off of your front doorstep. Is that possible? You think people will do that?
No, I got an email saying that there was a package for me to come pick up from the office, so we're good.
Okay. Uh, 0 to 108 football. You got to go through the mentions on YouTube to get the timestamps.
Those timestamps brought to you by the Holy Grail.
If you want to sponsor the timestamps, I'll do it, damn it. I'll do it. If you got a business and you want to sponsor the timestamps, I'm in. I am absolutely in. My DMs are open. You can hit me on Bearcat Journal. Private messaging. I love it. Crypt Keeper, don't go anywhere. We're still cruising, man. We got a lot of ways to go here.
Sometimes we just bring the show to you,
Right.
the pre-production show as it's happening. You're welcome.
Bye, Aaron.
I'm out.
All right. Jackson McGowan, tight end commit 2023 from Miamisburg. You have knowledge of Jackson McGowan, Dave, so please share.
I saw him play like a half of football. I had Will with us.
That's more knowledge than I have. I'm not saying you're like an expert on it. That was just a timestamp, Crypt Keeper. This is becoming a thing that I'm relentlessly going to mock going forward.
No, I would just say I've known of him because my close friend is a coach at Springboro, so they play each other. And he's also he's a big Ohio State fan. He's into the recruiting, so we talk about guys that he's familiar with when you see offers, and I kind of get some a little bit of inside info on, I always just say can this kid play at UC? And he'll tell me yes or no. But he said they thought he was the best player on Miamisburg's team. And that's obviously with current UC commit AJ Sally. And I don't know how much of a target he is, but he has a UC offer running back Christian Davis, I think is his. I know Davis is his last name.
Is he 2024 or is he 23?
Who? The running back?
Davis, yeah.
No, he's 23 also.
Okay. I thought there was a 24 guy I remember from Miamisburg that camped with all those guys.
There could be. I'm just not sure. Because he's got UC, West Virginia, Tennessee. He got the offers before the other guys too. He kind of was getting those offers prior to Sally and Jackson. But I mean, he's, as we've a lot of content on the board about him. I just think his biggest attribute right now, going into his senior years, he's got really good hands.
He can catch the football.
Yeah. Is he a tight end? Is he a big receiver? I don't know. I think trying to decipher that right now is kind of pointless. I mean, he, as his high school coach said, he plays 3 sports. So I'm sure he's one of those kids that is constantly doing something. So how much weight can he really put on in a high school athletic career when you're not, you're going from football right into basketball. You're not going from football into off-season weight training for the next football season. And I don't even know what the third sport is he plays. I don't know if it's baseball. I don't know if it's track.
One of the two, I would guess.
Yeah. But I just look at it from a frame standpoint. I mean, he's already 6'4", 6'5". He's clearly has some level of athletic ability. I mean, he's a power player on their basketball team, So, that they how Luke is with multi-sport athletes to begin with. Excuse me. And I just think it's another target, offensive weapon type player. And you just kind of see how he develops and, does he retain his speed when he eventually adds a bunch of weight? Does he grow anymore? Does he grow a lot more? It's so hard with these kids now to try to this far out
what do they look like 4 years from now?
Right. I mean, he's like, he might, I mean, I don't even know how, I mean, he might be super young. Like, he could be 16 years old.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's going to be a senior, but like, he could be a super young junior. We have no idea.
We're not reporting that he is. We're saying he could be.
Right. I'm just saying, like, we don't, that's not information that I'm aware of. I mean, the coaches
Right.
know those things, but so like trying to say he's this, he's that, I don't know. I've seen him play football. He catches the ball really well. He's clearly a focal point in their offense, so he's clearly a focal point for the opponents. And he still had a very productive season on a team that has a high-level Division I running back. So it wasn't like he was the only option for them.
Right.
And I'll be interested to see, like, does he continue to play 3 sports? Does he take this down to football now so he is more physically prepared to come in when he does as a freshman?
Does he cut 1 sport and just play 2?
Right. I mean, yeah, because then he can, that's the other thing too, is like when you play 3 sports, like even your summertime
Right.
is used for something. I mean, you're literally almost never just like not doing anything or focusing on one sport for any extended period of time.
Right.
So, but I'm mostly just encouraged from the fact that like people that coach against him thought that he was a problem and was their best player. What he becomes in, 4 or 5 years,
who knows?
I don't even want to. I'm not even going to try to guess.
So somebody brought this up on the board, and I think it's a quality question. So I'll ask you. The last recruited tight end that was brought in, the scouting report was like, this dude is a high-end catcher of the football, was Josiah DeGuara.
Yeah.
He's quite a bit bigger than, like, taller than Josie, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Josiah's like, he's
6'2"?
probably, maybe.
Maybe? Yeah.
Maybe.
And this is you're saying a legit 6'4" on this kid.
I mean,
Maybe
we list him
6'5".
at 6'4". His coach told Mick 6'5" in the article. So let's just say they're both lying and he's 6'3".
Right.
As a maybe 17-year-old.
Right. It's pretty good.
Well, yeah. I mean, not every.
It's not Wiley. It's
well,
not
no, but not. I
6'6",
mean,
but
Wiley also had offers from Oregon, Ohio State.
right.
Not every kid is like that.
Right.
So, you need just as much as you like to have, a Josh Wiley. I don't think anybody would think twice if we were like Jackson McGowan is going to have the same career Josiah DeGuara had.
Right.
Like, not every kid is Wiley, Lenny Taylor, Shimon Mateer. Like, and I don't think you want that in every tight end. Like, you want, if you're going to be an offensive line running style team, like, and I don't think Jackson will be this guy either, but like, you want inline tight end, you want a K tight end, you want kind of a tight end that you can do all sorts of stuff.
A little of
with.
both, right?
So, and I don't think this means they're done at tight end with this class either.
If they don't add like a long-term, whether they find somebody in 2022 late or they add a young
or a transfer.
tight end transfer, my guess is there's room for 2 tight ends in 2022 or 2023. Sorry.
I think there's room for 2 no matter what else they come across.
Well, but I mean, if you add like a redshirt freshman tight end that's got 3-4 years of eligibility left, that kind of solves, like, you added your 2022 guy and, you can go forward with, if you only take 1 in 2023, you're okay.
I mean, I guess, but like,
I'm saying you wouldn't be desperate to add 2.
No, you wouldn't be desperate, but I'd still be looking.
If they don't add a 2022 guy, they desperatly need 2 in 2023 is what I'm saying.
Yes, I would agree with that. I'm just like, I was just saying, like, even if you did, it's not something I would totally cross. I wouldn't cross it off my board at all.
No. I'm just talking about like if we don't see another tight end added via
Like
transfer or high school in 2022,
Yeah,
you're going to have to get.
for the 2022 season. If there's not another one on the roster, then absolutely.
Oh, that's talking recruiting. We've talked AJ Harris a ton. We've talked the staff being out on the road and firing out 4-star and 5-star offers with Harris.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like I am, I like the recruiting. I follow the recruiting. Every year I feel a little bit more and more weird that I'm like 40 years old and like checking up on these dudes on Twitter. But
sure.
But I am also this year. Everything seems to always fall back on the playoff in the Big 12. Like I'm interested in like what kind of dudes show up at camps this summer, coming off of a playoff and going into the Big 12.
Does it look different? Right.
Right. Like when we get the list, when we show up each day, like, are we like, damn, that's like, there's some like,
dude. Like,
there's some dudes
right.
that like came out of their way to go like, yeah, I need to go camp at UC.
Right.
Not just like my bus tour came through and I happen to be the one really good player of 60 kids that are here.
And last year I thought was really quiet on the camp front because I thought they had, for the most part, they had their blueprint for their 2022 class pretty much already, like the footprint was laid by June.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this isn't the only one, but like Ken Willis is the only one that comes to mind that like legitimately came to camp and earned a committable offer.
I think Luke Dalton fit that mold.
Okay.
I think there was one other. Now remember, they also had kind of these like sneaky camps that they didn't really tell anybody about. That the NCAA changed their rules this year, and you were allowed to have kind of like private camps.
Yeah.
That weren't open to the public. So I'm sure that'll be a little bit more of a factor as well going forward. But yeah, I'm excited to get like once we get to June and figure out like let's see what this talent
and
looks
I
like.
also don't think they're in a hurry to fill up this class pre-summer.
Well, I mean,
2023 class.
Yeah, sure, but like what they've already got 5.
That's not. I mean, that's
no, but for January, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I guess so. I guess I don't know. Maybe I.
But
and we'll see.
Also,
we'll see what comes of these junior days too. Like,
sure,
it could end up being, I guess it's kind of silly to even like look at it that way right now because it always seems to in the springtime they get a bunch.
Yeah,
and then the summer is slow from a commitment standpoint. And then they get a few. Like, well, I guess what I've noticed is, and I could be totally wrong on this. We could easily go back and look at commitment dates and whatnot, but it always feels like April, May, like March, April, May commits, dudes camp, couple more. You really don't see a lot of commits during the season anymore.
No, it's generally done by then. But here's the thing I would point to, right? So Jackson McGowan is the 22nd rated player in Ohio by 247. He and Jason Hewlett have both been rated by 24/7. They don't have a composite yet, so we're waiting on that. But Trevor Carter, 6th in the state. AJ Sally, 10th. According to 24/7, Jason Hewlett, 11th. Evan Tengestal, 17th. Jackson McGowan 22nd. In the not so distant past, getting a top 25 prospect in the state of Ohio was like, whoa, right? Getting one, maybe two. They have 5, and it's January 19th. That's insane. And remember, their national rank right now is really good. Their average rating, 87.07. They haven't ventured, like, these are just the Ohio kids that they're getting. So you have to be kind of blown away by the way this has played out so far.
Well, and also, hold on, I'm also trying to pull something up here. Like, since they are all Ohio, this is easy to look at.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 4, number 5, number 7, number 11, number 14, kinda, number 16 are all guys that they are very much recruiting.
Deeply involved in, right?
From a composite stamp, that was the composite list.
Yeah,
if we use the 247 list and go down even further, 16 has an offer. 24, I think, has an offer, and 25 has interest. So, like, they're still recruiting a good 7 to 10 of the top 25 that they would probably take.
And this is what we've always talked about Ohio, right? Go get the top 25 guys that Ohio State, doesn't land. And put your stamp on, hey, Michigan, hey, Michigan State, hey, Wisconsin, hey, Penn State, hey, Boston College. Like, if you think you're coming in to get the top 25 players in Ohio, you're not only going to have to come in and beat Ohio State, you're going to have to come in, and now Cincinnati is right there taking that next group of kids.
The two most important things outside of UC's control that need to continue to happen is, one, Jim Harbaugh stays at Michigan because for whatever reason they've decided to not recruit Ohio.
Sure.
And what Ryan Day has done at Ohio State, revamping that staff, they're going to continue recruiting nationally.
Yeah.
They're not – they're always going to recruit Ohio, but they are definitely recruiting nationally and have been since Urban Meyer got there, away from the trestle, mainly recruit Ohio. Like, they're going to get the Ohio kids, obviously, but they're
going to get the ones they want. They're just gonna. So
Jim Harbaugh staying at Michigan, and I'll just throw a name out there. Matt Campbell not coming into Michigan.
Right. Matt Campbell at Michigan would be a problem.
It would hurt, and no doubt about it, because he already recruits Ohio from Iowa State. Now, he's not getting the kids that he did 3-4 years ago from Ohio.
Before Cincinnati was a factor. Because
exactly.
If you look at these kids committing, they all have Iowa State offers.
But if he goes there, he's going to go back into Michigan and go, we can go get these kids now that UC's getting.
Right.
Because Michigan's not recruiting Ohio anymore. So those are the two things, like, out of UC's control that need to continue to happen to be able to get some of the best players in the state. But I'll be interested to see, they're obviously making a big effort in Florida today. They're not going to ever not, but Carey recruits Florida and Georgia very hard. Mike Brown is down in there in the South right now. Gino does some work in South Georgia. So I don't think those things those elements aren't going away anytime soon.
Right.
So we'll see.
if it all comes down to the run game for 2022, who will be transferring after spring games? Tony. How the hell do I know that? There will be a lot of disgruntled running backs who don't like where they are. Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
That's for them to figure out.
Yeah, I just don't know which ones it's going to be. My crystal ball does not indicate who's getting first and second team snaps. Look, I will tell you this. Here's what I can tell you on that front, Tony. There was a lot of background chatter about running backs across the country that didn't enter the transfer portal. And they aren't the names that a lot of people are thinking of.
Or at least haven't to this date. Right.
What I can say is you are absolutely correct that spring ball there's going to be a pretty good chance that there's some running backs available in the spring. We'll see who they are. And the names I'm tracking aren't just the ones the two you're thinking of off the top of your head. And I know the two you're thinking of.
Because it's the two everybody thinks of.
But I will tell you this. There are a lot of running backs around the country that are very aware of the fact that Jerome Ford is in the draft, and the last three Cincinnati running backs were Mike Warren, Jared Dokes, Jerome Ford. Coming and playing in this offense is very attractive for guys that play running back.
If I bet you $5 that another running back for the 2022 season would be added, would you put that $5 on yes or no?
Yes.
That yes, there will be another running back added at some point for the 2022 season.
Based on the belief of what I just said, that it's going to be an active running back market in the spring, I would vote yes.
Yes.
Now, do some of those running backs win the job at their respective schools? Do some of those running backs get to a position where they're splitting carries and they're 1A, 1B, and they don't transfer? Is that possible? Yes.
Yeah, law of averages says yes.
But I think there's a chance we see a good deal of running backs on the market, and Cincinnati is a place where running backs would obviously be attracted to play because they run the ball a lot. Look, remember, we are in a pass-happy college football world. And Cincinnati is one of the places that runs the football a lot. And they're dedicated to it. And they just hired an offensive line coach that was the offensive coordinator for the number one rushing attack in the country, on top of the reputation of being a place that is very running back friendly. So I think they will continue to be active in the running back market. That's about all I got on the recruiting front.
Yeah.
Aaron,
time stamp it.
1 hour, 34 minutes basketball. 1 hour, 34 minutes basketball.
And then 1 hour, 35 minutes Bengals.
Come on, Dave. You have to be happy with the direction of this basketball team right now.
I'm kidding. I was just going to say, do I need to walk back my comment last week about this league is fucking terrible and there's no way they're getting more than one bid? Or...
Well, right now it's starting to look like if they get two bids,
it could be UC.
It's Cincinnati. Because look, I talked about this a little bit this week with Mike DeCourcy. Cincinnati has a whale. They have a whale.
Yeah,
they have
no
a neutral site win over Illinois.
They got that Illinois win. That's going to be – see, that's the thing is when you're parsing, dog shit versus cow shit, having that win is something that not a lot of teams in their, similar silo is going to have.
Non-conference neutral site win over a number 10 or top 10 net team.
Like, yeah, how many teams fighting for spots in the playing games in Dayton are going to have that win under their belt?
Right. It's
Now, I also laughed.
they have a lot of work to do.
Right, because I also laughed on the BBB. I don't know if it was last week or this week when I think Aaron talked about them winning out.
Yeah, easy, Tiger. We have not seen that level of consistency from this team yet.
This is still the same team that lost at home to Monmouth.
Yeah.
I sure did. And listen, it's a matter of time. Have a little hope.
No, but I mean, like, so they've got, what, 12 regular seasons games left?
Yes.
I think 8-4 is a fair mark. Do you agree?
Yeah. If you're going to want a shot to make the tournament, you
I'm
better
throwing
get to
that out
9-3, right?
I'm just throwing that out there blindly without, like, looking at the schedule and saying, okay.
Well, you've got Memphis, you've got Houston. You might have a second Houston game.
They ain't rescheduling that. Come on.
Houston is not going to take the chance that they lose to UC at home. Right.
No, especially with the way that their roster is right now.
Right.
Like, they're not going to voluntarily be like, yeah, let's play the second best team in the league when we don't have any of our good players.
Yeah.
So, like, say you say 8-4, 9-3, again, then you have to go, well, okay, who are the three losses against? Are they against the better crappy teams, or are they against the crappy teams?
Right.
And that is what I always come back to as the sticking point is outside of Houston, nothing that they do from a win standpoint does anything except add a number in the counting stat.
Sure.
And that is the problem. Like, and that's the problem with the league. Like, there is no opportunity, like on Oregon, for instance, who goes from not even in the field bracketology-wise in one weekend is in the field because they beat UCLA and USC. Like, we don't have those opportunities. So we can say, win this many games, win that many games. Do any of those games matter, in the grand scheme of things is the problem.
Right.
Because those teams that we beat, it's not like we're going to be their only loss the rest of the year. Like, they're going to pile on additional losses as well. So it's just kind of, it makes it that much more difficult. Now, it's not something from a national perspective that I have given 1 second of thought to. So I have no idea, like, who else is good. Are there a bunch of other teams in the same boat as us? I guess the thing you hope for is that you don't lose to any of the truly dog shit teams.
Right.
You beat the better ones, and you at least make it to the finals of the conference tournament and give yourself a puncher's chance to be an at-large.
Make them say you don't belong, even with the Illinois win.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah. You can't be going into the conference tournament where 100% we have to win this thing to get in.
Yeah. You're probably, regardless of based on where things are,
sure.
You're probably going to know we got to play to the finals.
Yeah, because if we
play to the finals,
3 or 4 more games, from a resume standpoint, those are all probably like either just very nondescript losses or bad losses. I mean, because look at who we're playing. Like, outside of Houston, there's no good loss on the schedule the rest of the way.
Right.
So it's not like you can be like, yeah, they went on the road and lost to Purdue by 4. Like, yes, they lost, but man, they great game, whatever. Like, there are none of those.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's interesting though, man. It's kind of like if you're charting the start of the Wes Miller era, all of a sudden you're looking and going, I kind of like what I'm watching.
Well, and that's the thing is like you're at least you can at least hang your hat on individual improvement, team improvement, and just the enjoyable fact of like they're just playing better / good basketball. And being the second or third best team in this league is not anything to brag,
Right?
to brag about. But in a year that we really weren't sure what was going to happen, being the second or third best team, and yes, they were 0-4 in the league, but going on the road and beating Wichita State, going on the road and playing the way you did against Memphis, those are things to be encouraged about. Like, it sure as shit beats the alternative and beats, what we thought could happen in certain situations because we know the limitations of this roster.
Here's what I'll say has impressed me the most. And this is probably the basketball nerd in me, right? He makes the right adjustment lineup-wise. Case in point, Koval last game. It was a brilliant move. It was a brilliant move in large part because Hayden hit shots. As Aaron and I talked about on the nightcap, if he goes 1 for 4 instead of 3 for 4, everybody's like, why the hell was he in the game? So that's on Hayden as much as it's on Wes. But here's what's encouraging to me, Dave. So they opened the season as an unknown, right?
Yeah.
And they go through those first 5 games. They get to Kansas City. They beat Illinois. They almost take down Arkansas. And then we talked a lot about now the tape is out, right? Now teams are watching tape of what a Wes Miller Cincinnati team looks like. And they're adjusting. And it was able for, 3-4 weeks to kind of cripple this team. Because it got out, like who they were, what you had to do to stop them. What their identity was. What it was about to take them out of what they wanted to do. And now there's the adjusting to the adjustment. And Cincinnati has been able to overcome that because that's, for me, that's what that's the sign of a good coach is you are who you are. It's on tape. They figure it out. And then you counter with new stuff.
Right.
And you say, okay, this is what you're going to take away. Now we're going to do this. This is it's the chess match that is, a full season of college basketball. And the evidence as it stands looks pretty damn good. Now, that's not to say that we get to February and, teams adjust again. But the reality is, this is a coach that looks like he's got the pulse of his team for me. I think that's important, right? Because they're listening. The scouting reports are being adhered to. They're doing, for the most part, there have been a couple bumps where we've looked at them and going, and I think that's what's interesting too, Dave. It has been very clear, very noticeable when they're not doing what is being asked of them. Right?
Well, that's when you have talent deficiencies at certain areas of the game, it makes those glaring when they're not doing what you need to do in order to be competitive or to win.
Right. But for the most part, this team looks like a team that's connected with their coach. They're accomplishing what they were taught in practice. What are you laughing at?
Just Hitch offered a kid, so now I'm just scrolling through Twitter and someone retweeted a BBC article that says, in Japan, there are clubs where you pay to have someone make you cry. And the retweet was, in Ohio, they call this club FC Cincinnati.
That's great. So no, I'm encouraged with where things are. We didn't know, and there's been a lot of we've adjusted our what we think our expectations are multiple times, and I think the biggest thing, when you look at what does it mean that Cincinnati's number 2 in the net in the conference, it reinforces more than anything. Oh boy, this conference stinks out loud.
Yeah, because number 2 in the net is barely
50,
in the top 60.
Yeah, 58 or whatever it is. I think that's where they were the last time I looked. Not
your second best team is fringe. If you just seeded them 1 through 64, fringe in the tournament,
right? Not counting the 32 automatic qualifiers,
right?
God, I can't wait to get out of this league. Although I will say, watching some of the Big 12,
yeah, we could.
We would not. This team would not be second in the Big 12 hierarchy right now.
Well, yeah, that was I think Todd asked earlier about joining by 2023. I'm well, which sport? Which sport?
Football, probably good.
Which sport do you want to get in there quick on?
Basketball, we're going to find out how good Wes Miller is. Look, what are the odds?
I mean, it can't be worse than when Mick had to go through the Big East at the beginning of that. So
here's the question. What are the odds UC will be playing in the Big 12 for the 2023 season?
I would say
58.7%.
I would say strong to quite strong.
You would go what? 72.4%?
99.9.
Yeah, okay.
I'll leave myself a 1.1% out.
It's going to be interesting. How hard does the Big 12 push for it? I think is what matters most.
I still think it's hilarious that everyone keeps saying Texas and Oklahoma are going to fulfill their 5 more years or 4 more years of okay. But hey, I hope they do.
Sure.
Because then I can definitively say that UC is a better football program than Texas.
Definitively a better football program than Texas. We need to get Berg on here soon. We haven't heard from Berg in a while.
No,
to talk some basketball.
Preseason, right? I mean,
yeah, he's kind of. I know he's been busy. I know there's a lot going on, so we need to get him in here soon for some basketball. But the problem is we've just had too much football to talk, and everybody's complaining that now we do too much content at Bearcat Journal. They just can't keep up.
Who's complaining about that?
Oh, there's a whole thread.
About what?
That we do too much content and we have to do timestamps.
Well, hey,
and
the alternative,
not able.
You can go to bearcatreport.com because they sure as shit don't do too much content.
Somebody suggested today we should just shut it down for a week and see what they
not
think.
Do anything.
Yeah, not do anything for a week.
Which program would you want to play at Nippert if you could only choose one, OU or UT? Definitely Texas.
Texas for sure, yeah.
OU's their fan base is extremely nice. Their program has been good. They have made the college football playoff. I want to have Texas come to Nippert, dog walk their ass, so that I can just go, is Texas back?
No. There has to be is Texas back Twitter feed, right?
I don't know. I mean, they claimed to be back after they beat Georgia in a meaningless Sugar Bowl and then turned around and fired their coach the next year. So,
yeah. They didn't invite Cunningham to Vegas to talk 14-team scheduling for no reason. Of course. I'm not. Look, I'm just saying I'm not putting it at 99.9% like Dave yet.
I think this summer we'll start to hear. I mean, clearly there's rumblings. That article came out from Dennis Dodd. They're clearly getting, ducks in a row. But I don't know when they're going to, I don't know if they'll have an official announcement anytime soon because I still don't believe that the Texas and Oklahoma thing is what they're
Right.
saying. Because, in that article they talked about splitting up in the divisions, having Texas and Oklahoma on opposite sides so that when they do leave, that they don't need to change anything. But I'm still just like, how are you recruiting to a conference that like you're not really in anymore? Like, how are you getting elite level players?
Well, they're recruiting to the SEC.
Yeah, but they're not going to be in the SEC according to them until like 2025. So they're really not recruiting these guys to the SEC.
That's fair. 134 to 148 hoops. Good job, Aaron.
14 minutes out of me. I feel like I contributed there.
You did. And we'll have more as the season goes on, and we'll try to get Berg in here when the football slows down. But the football has refused to slow down.
The other thing too is I was actually able to like watch the
Wichita State game. And you were like, "Oh, I kind of like watching this team."
I was able to watch the majority of it, and then I didn't watch the end because then they were winning, so I figured I would just be a little stitious and not turn it on. But I knew that they would win because they always win there and own those sons of guns.
And you loved nothing more than talking shit to your Wichita State friend.
Yeah, because and I don't have the time or really the care to really dig back, but I feel like I'm not misremembering this. There was a large segment of the Shocker fan base that felt they were just going to walk their asses into the Mighty American and just start
be daddy. They were going to be daddy.
Kicking ass like they did in the MVC, and it hasn't quite worked out that way for them.
They're so weird to me because they've got a crap ton of talent, but I think they just keep getting in those tight game situations. And shockingly, you've got the reigning conference player of the year that's not able to close. It's not a great place to be. I'll let you hear. We've got 7.5 minutes before we hit 2 hours. So your willingness to hit 2 hours depends on how long you want to talk about the Bengals. You were what? You were 9 the last time they won a playoff game?
No, I would have been, January of 91? I was born in October of 81. So, 9, 10, something like that. Young enough to not remember. So.
You don't remember?
No,
9 or 10?
I don't remember. I don't think I was see, here's the thing, too. I wasn't a Bengals fan as a really young kid. I was a Bills fan because my dad was from Rochester, New York. Went to Bills games growing up. And then the Bills were like the greatest thing ever when I was a kid because that was like the K-Gun offense. Jim Kelly, Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, Kenneth Davis, like Bruce Smith, Darryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett. So me and all my friends, because the Bengals sucked too, like the 90s, the lost decade. So we were all like Bills fans. All of us kids were.
Right.
Gene dad was a Bills fan. So, but yeah, so I didn't really become a real diehard Bengals fan until, junior high schoolish age. I still remember when I first started playing fantasy football, my Yahoo login was Bengals Suck 99, 1999. But no, I was there. It was awesome. I was, I don't know. I was just total, not stunned because I thought they would win the whole time, but just almost like when UC made it to the college football playoff, you almost don't know how to react.
How were you reacting when the Raiders were marching down the field?
I wasn't losing my mind, but I also wasn't there's
calm.
no problem.
Right.
No problem. I think when they had the very questionable roughing the passer penalty. I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
Here we go.
The first play of the drive is
Right.
a 30-yard play or whatever. But then I also remembered that, like, Derek Carr is still their quarterback, and he's just kind of okay.
But they had like 6 walk-off wins this year.
Oh, they did. I mean, that they had plenty of games where they came back and got it done in the end. But they also don't have the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on their team. So
you took exception to me saying Paul Dehner Jr. was out in front of the Joe Burrow
I did take
revolution.
exception to that because anybody that's listened to me talk about the Bengals for any amount of time knows that I was on the Joe Burrow train much, much before anyone else that I know and anyone else in the city. I had already started to get on the train at the end of his junior year, and then was fully on board after the Texas game, his senior year, while other people were still
Which
talking
was
about
out of conference, like before even like October.
Oh yeah, while other people were still talking about drafting Chase Young.
Yeah. I was one of those.
But I'm not singling you out. There were plenty of them.
No, I'm okay with owning up what I said. I was one of those.
But yeah, so I will be driving down to Nashville Saturday morning.
Are you going?
I'm going by myself.
Oh wow. So you bought one ticket,
I bought
leaving
one
the
ticket.
wife and kid at home, and I'm going to the damn game.
That's right. I mean, I have lots of friends in Nashville.
Sure.
So I'm going to the game with them because they are Titan season ticket holders, but I am sitting by myself. It was very funny. My dad, who's like been a Bengals season ticket holder for as long as I've been alive, asked all of the guys that he goes to the game with if any of them wanted to go. Didn't ask me. None of them wanted to go to the game. So I asked him, I'm going. Do you want to go? And he said no. I'm like, is this me? Or did you
I don't think your dad likes you.
I was like, or did he actually like not want any of them to say yes? So it was like an excuse for him to not go. Like he felt obligated to ask if they were if anyone else wanted to go, and he only would have gone if someone else said yes. Like, I don't know, but I kind of took it a little personal, but it will not detract from the fun that I will have.
Dave, I don't know that your dad likes you.
He might. Caused him a lot of issues over the years, so he might not, financial and otherwise. But
my dad doesn't like going to games with me. He likes going to games with Kelsey. And I just drive him there, and then he goes to the game with Kelsey. I work. And then we meet up afterwards.
I do have to give him credit though. Like he I think we talked before the game. I was like, so when they win, I'm going to come back to the tailgate and let's celebrate. And
he's like, no, I don't like you.
No. Rachel and I walked all the way to their tailgate lot after the game, and they were like already in the car
leaving.
I was like, what's going on here? And I could tell in his eyes, he did not want to leave.
Oh, your mom wanted to go.
It was the rest of the group, I guess, had enough. But
tell him to call an Uber. Get the fuck out.
Could have just stayed at my house.
Right.
Yeah. So no, I will be going solo. I think there will be a lot of Bengals fans there.
Since we now do Bengals content on the site, give me a brief breakdown of Bengals Titans.
We have the better quarterback.
Yes.
And I don't know. I don't know if this is just like false. It's very funny. I have two like really close friends that are also huge Bengal fans, and So before the playoffs even started, like we were like talking about scenarios and this, that, and the other, and I said something to the effect of, "It's pretty funny that we're talking about this, given that we haven't won a playoff game in 31 years. Like we're already like." But I don't know. It's like, is it just the Joe Burrow effect, where like he can just say things like, "Yeah, I didn't, this is just the cake. This is the icing on the cake. Like this is the standard now." And I don't think he was saying like,
what a great quote that was. This isn't the icing on the cake. This is the cake.
Yeah, this
what
is
a
like
fucking great quote that was.
This is what is expected. And I don't think he meant like winning.
No. But
winning,
I fucking love that quote.
Right. Like this, this is, I think he said something in yesterday's media. That was like the cake comment was the post game.
Right after the game, right.
Yesterday he said something about like, this is the standard. I know that the
getting to the playoffs and winning is like what we do now.
Yeah. And I just think he means, and I don't think he means like that we're going to like go far all the time, because that's not even like, you can't foresee that.
Right.
I think he just means like we're going to be in the mix.
Right.
And that's the thing with him. Like, as long as he's upright and playing at a high level, like they're always going to be in the mix. Now they'll have good years and bad years on a sliding scale.
They'll have years when everybody gets hurt. They'll have years when everybody stays relatively healthy.
Exactly. Right. But I'm interested to see like how much, and I'm assuming a lot, but how much Derrick Henry plays. The Titans have some goofy ass losses this year. They will turn the ball over. They have like 5 games this year. They've turned it over at least 3 times.
Right.
Todd mentions depth on the D line, 100%. Like, it seems like it's going to be better even with.
Right now, it's only Ogunjobi because
Mike
Hendrickson was cleared today, right?
Like, well, he practiced in full.
Right.
So as long as he wakes up tomorrow and doesn't have like a ringing headache, he'll likely come off the concussion list.
So it's just Ogunjobi and Mike Daniels that are.
Yeah, but they might get
out.
Tupa back for some limited snaps. I don't.
Right.
I just look like everybody knows what the Bengals offensive line is. It's not great. It's not like atrocious. They've been able to work around it. They haven't run the ball very well the last 6 games or so.
Because they let Joe cook.
Well, but even so, like they didn't, they ran the ball well against the Raiders the first time and not so much on Saturday. But like if I'll just keep coming back to it, like they haven't turned the ball over in 5 games. If they don't turn the ball over, with the way that the offense is, like they did not have a very good offensive game Saturday night and still scored 26 points.
They didn't finish at all.
No, they were awful in the red zone against a team that is terrible in red zone.
It's like the worst red zone defense in the NFL.
So, like, if they don't turn the ball over, the Titans aren't stopping them. So, the question becomes, how do they do against the run? Do they give does the defense do good enough against the run to give the offense enough possessions? Because if the Titans will stick with the run
no matter what
till the bitter end. Like they can be down in the 3rd, 4th quarter and be like, nope, we're going to stick with it because Henry's about to break one. So can they contain the run game enough and the boot game? Like Tannehill really only does 2 things. They run play action off their run and they boot him. So can they contain the boot game, slow the run down enough to give themselves enough possessions to score, in the mid to upper 20s? If they do that, I think they can win. Because they're just, the offense, Joe's making all the right decisions right now.
Tennessee's 25th against the pass?
they're fine. Like they do a pretty good job of getting pressure, but
they're bottom of the league against the pass and yards allowed.
Jeffrey Simmons is a problem up the middle. But like they don't have a Max Crosby.
Right.
Jonah Williams just totally dominated Unique Ngakoue. Like there's some video on Twitter that is just it's embarrassing, like how bad he whipped his ass. The left side of the line is fine. The right side is a kind of an abject disaster, but they've been able to work around it. I guess I would say from the center to the tackle spot. But like, I guess I'm going in like, am I expecting them to win? Like, I'm not expecting them to win. Like, the Titans are still the 1 seed. They, for as much as the goofy, like they lost to the Jets just like the Bengals. They also like beat the shit out of the Rams in LA.
Yeah.
Like they lost to the Steelers, but they beat the Chiefs like in Kansas City.
Right.
So like they have some good wins. Like that kind of offset their terrible losses. They still went 12-5, which is damn hard to do, even though you play in a dog shit division. So I'm not expecting a win. But like I'm going in pretty confident that
you feel better about this than if they were playing the Bills or the Chiefs.
Well, that's the thing is like, okay, draw out your scenario. What would you rather have happen? You play the Titans in Tennessee, where you know you'll have a decent amount of fans, and it ain't exactly Buffalo or Kansas City from a home field advantage standpoint. And you play Ryan Tannehill versus playing Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's as good of a situation as you could ask for.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to be in the divisional round, this is the best case.
In the playoffs, like all these teams are good. Like nobody, very rarely do you like accidentally, because you would have had to lose at home, like to move on to the divisional round, you would have a bad quote unquote bad playoff team. I mean, they made the play, would have had to have lost at home.
Sure.
And even the 49ers are the only team that won on the road, and I don't think anybody would consider them, bad. I mean, they're pretty darn. I mean, a lot of people thought they would beat the Cowboys anyway. So, it's if you were drawing this up, X number of weeks ago, this is what the scenario you would have wanted. And Burrow's just been, whether it's the last year at LSU, and then this year, like he's won every game that he's had to win.
Right.
So we shall see. And if they win, we will be cheering very, very hard for the Buffalo Bills.
Will you be in a suite in Buffalo or?
Well, I've already asked that, and I don't think they're going to let some Bengals fans in the GM suite.
Maybe the club level. Maybe they can find you some club level spots.
Brandon will probably stick us in the last row and screw these guys. But no, if they can win and happen to go to Buffalo, we'll be following them right along there. So it's pretty wild. I was doing the math. I have been to 13 football games this year, college and pro.
Mm-hmm.
My record is 12-1.
Ooh, it's pretty good.
It is.
It's pretty good.
So we'll see.
All right. Well, we got you over 2 hours by talking Bengals because we were done with Bearcats at like 1:52.
Yeah.
So if we had Bengals to the end of this show, we're going to get over 2 hours regularly.
Well, when relevant, we're not
relevant.
We're
right.
not going to, and we'll be talking plenty of this year, especially. We'll be talking plenty of NFL
draft. Yeah.
For the next few months when you got the Senior Bowl, the Combine.
Am I sending you to Mobile or what?
I still didn't even. I don't think you. I mean, I don't know. Well, probably not because I think I have something. That weekend actually. Is it the weekend of like February 19th?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. the missus and I are she's very much into true crime. So there's a event, one of the podcasts she listens to, they are from Columbus. There's an event at Brewdog Brewery in Columbus on the 19th. So
I was just gonna say, take her to Mobile with you.
she already goes to enough sporting stuff with me. I can go listen to some people talk about true crime drama for a couple hours.
All right. Well, there you go. The timestamps are all in the chat. If you want timestamps, you can find them. That's where they are. And that's going to wrap it up. Dave, over under on how long it will be until your head is on the pillow asleep. I'll go with 19 minutes.
That'll be a little bit longer than that, but
24 minutes.
Easily before 11.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. It's been a great show. I think we covered a lot of fucking ground tonight. Like, in terms of like shows with like no games to talk about and, you know, kind of limited on the surface topics, I think we gave you a phenomenal show tonight. It was brought to you not only by our friends at the Holy Grail, but by our friends at Home Field Apparel. Saturday, noon. Be ready to spend a lot of money. Enter Bearcat Journal. You get 15% off. I'm telling you, this collection is fire. I can tell you this. If I had to buy this collection like independently, I would buy the shirt Dave got and the 2 shirts I got instantly. They would be at the top of the list, and they're not like, if there was a top 5, they'd all be in the top 5. I'm not sure they're number 1 and maybe not number 2. So be ready Saturday at noon to get your Home Field Apparel because it is an awesome, awesome collection. That's it. We'll see you next time. He's Dave Simone. I'm Chad Brendel. It's the Holy Grail BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com.